Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My father often tells me that mistakes are the growing pains of wisdom. And my guest on today's Power Hour shares with us not only a number of mistakes, but comes from a series of practitioners, a series of practices that are rooted in wisdom and rooted in sound theory. My guest today is emblematic of everything that the SiberxChange.ca community is all about. It is spread globally. We have advisors from India, Dubai, all across Europe, and even Australia. And my name is Ali Hijiri, and as the lead of this CyberXchange advisory, I am humbled to be in the presence of the individual that I'm about to introduce to you. You're joining me live from the CyberXchange studio here in the town of Ajax. The beautiful St. Francis Center is the venue for the upcoming CyberXchange Online Summit, as well as the venue or the stage for future cybersecurity summits. I want to acknowledge that we're on the land of the peoples of the Mississaugas, of the Scugog Island First Nation. This land is protected under the Williams Treaties. Those who take risks are only those individuals who will come to know how far we can go. And my guest today is Abbas Kudrati, someone with vast experience who has taken risks and come very, very far. He holds senior positions across multiple organizations, gives back in more ways than one, and is a chief cybersecurity advisor at Microsoft all the way in Australia. Today, he will engage with us on a variety of topics, and I look forward to sharing some exchanges with him on the Cyber Exchange around how is it that he has seen businesses grow through their understandings of cybersecurity. Abbas, welcome to the Power Hour. Abbas, tell us more a little bit about your journey in cybersecurity. I've read this correctly, I assume. You began in a world of finance and accounting and in commerce. And then you happen to find yourself in cybersecurity. I'm a firm believer in what Pele says, which is success doesn't happen by accident. What happened to bring you to this position?
There is an interesting story behind that. So, I was introduced to computers at a very early age during my school days, and I got fascinated by that, using those GW Basic and COBOL and Fox Pro and Fox Base during those time. If you remember what
I
I'm
do
talking
not,
about.
and I will not pretend to, but go on.
So it was very fascinating to be on that. But coming from a business background, my dad is a businessman, and he said, "No, I need to study commerce so you can help me in my business. I don't want you to go and do a job because we are a business family."
Right.
And which I was forced to do a commerce graduation in accounting and auditing. But I always had a passion of IT, so I told my dad, "No, I'm going to do a diploma because you didn't send me for my degree in engineering or in computer science." And immediately, as soon as I finished my graduation, I ran away from my hostel and went to a city called Pune
Yeah.
to finish my diploma and got a job into IT. And since then, I never looked back. I continued my journey from being a system admin using Novell and Solaris and Linux and Unix, and then moved into Windows part, became network engineer, went into network security, then became IT auditor. From IT auditor, I became a risk professional. I became a CISO, and now I'm an advisor. It's a long way.
Yeah, often we've been speaking to a variety of companies, of sponsors of our platform, various advisors as well. And one thing that they've often told me is this idea of the one guarantee for failure is the inability to take some risks. When did you realize that cybersecurity was an important aspect of a business and its operations?
Well, again, I have a story for that. So I used to be a system administrator back in India, working in an American company in Hyderabad.
Yeah.
And I was good in my job. I know how to manage the network. I know how to manage the firewall and things like that. But one fine day, my file server was compromised. It was hacked by some malicious user, and it was all filled up with pornography materials, and my old files were deleted, which was a corporate file. That's where I realized that knowing how to configure and knowing how to administrator is not going to take me a long way. I need to know how to defend my corporate network against this malicious advisory. How did they do it? I was very curious. I have a very curious nature as well. So I started studying that how the heck my firewall got compromised and how he got managed to access my server. What is missing piece? And that's where I learned how to do a penetration testing on my own. I went into a self-education journey. I learned how to do a hardening of environment, and I thought cybersecurity or information security during those days. Cyber was nowhere there at that point of time, talking about 10, 12 years, 15 years back actually, where information security and IT security was something which we used to discuss. Then cyber came in later. Then we started talking about now everything is a connected world, and mobile devices are connected, IoT devices, cloud, software as a service. We are on a connected world, and I keep giving a definition of what is cybersecurity. I've been always been asked, and I say that cybersecurity is stay protected while connected because we are on a connected world.
Right.
So it does makes a very huge impact and a difference to business how and what you can do to protect the business environment from these cyber adversaries.
We've often here in North America looked at India and the growth of technology and the flattening of the world. The call center being one example, but other services as well. We often talk about brain drains. We often talk about the number of students that come from India to North America to study, cybersecurity being one of the areas of extreme interest. Can you talk to us a little bit more about, yes, you had this moment of realization when something had happened to you. When did it become a matter that now extended through the corporation as a whole, where now it was not just it hit one individual, and there's always an exception that proves the rule? When did it become that no, cybersecurity is now a matter for every layer of the organization?
Absolutely. Uh, we call no business is without information technology, right? You take an example of a bank. We don't call bank as a bank. It's a technology shop masqueraded as a bank. You
Yeah.
pick up telecom organization, right? Telecom company is not a telecom company. It's an IT shop masqueraded as a telecom company
Yeah.
because there is so heavy reliance and on the technology that you cannot live without it. For everything and anything, you need to rely on technology. And you need to have a secure technology and a secure platform because now you are collecting data from your end users, your own employee, from customers. So data security also comes into picture. And often CISOs are thrown on a corner that it is security responsibility for that. But it's not anymore. The
Yep.
transformation what we have seen in last 4 or 5 years now, board members are asking the questions: how am I doing in security? Not only how am I doing, but how is our partners and vendor doing in security? Are they managing our security well? Because there is a huge reliance on vendor ecosystem as well. So it has become a board level discussion.
Yeah.
And once something is discussed at a board level, it's not one individual or a one department responsibility. It becomes everyone responsibility.
Yep.
And the recent time, what we have seen, it's not the organization who have been targeted against those malicious emails and malware and ransomware. It's the individual who are being targeted.
Yep.
The hackers are no longer interested in compromising your firewall or a file server, which used to be 20 years back. Now they are behind your identity. If your identity is compromised, they know they can get into the network. So it is now everyone's responsibility, not only business, not only CISO, not only IT.
We often say is that if you want to be in the shoes of a hacker, you have to be able to think like a hacker. How
Think
easy
like
was
a hacker.
Yeah, how easy was it for you to make that transition into this Hyderabadi biryani enjoying IT specialist in Hyderabad now has to think in the shoes of a hacker. How were you able to make
Absolutely.
that transition?
So I burned my fingers, right?
Yeah.
I realized only when my systems were compromised. So then it made me thought that this is not going to be enough. So think like hacker. You need to think why they did it. Of course, there was no motive of gaining. There was no financial gain in that area. Maybe they did it for to prove themselves, right? Or and how they did it, what tools they used it. So they use number of open source tools or commercial tools or things like that. So which makes me curious that can I think like them and help my organization to protect and defense against them? That's what every cybersecurity professionals who are on the defensive side, attacker and the defensive side, are thinking. And not only thinking about how they're doing what they're doing, we are trying to catch up a game in a way that we should be one step ahead of them. And there are a number of mechanisms the way tech giants like Microsoft, AWS, Google, as well as defenders who are working on red team, blue team exercise and all, they are doing in a way that how they can be one step ahead. If if one area of my organization has been compromised, how can I protect them for not going further in that? The typical our kill chain mechanism, right? And a
Yep.
defense in depth mechanism, what we call it. So it's really a thought process, a strategy, what they can do it, and how they can help organizations in securing their crown jewel in a way.
Yeah. As an advisor to so many different groups, both in your seat at Microsoft, but also in all of your other engagements, you've obviously had to not just advise from positions of, sort of armchair philosophy. You've had to advise in situations which are war zone or war room like environments. What is your perspective when it comes to organizations being aggressive on their cybersecurity posture, or even in some cases, inviting hackers to come into them and then figuring out how strong or less strong their defenses are?
Yeah. So those who are really confident, I would say, not aggressive, confident that their security is good, they really make a huge investment within their organization. One example I'll talk about is a red team, blue team exercise,
Yep.
because they cannot have that confidence if they are not testing themselves often. It's not one off that okay, once in a year we have done pen test, once in a year we have done vulnerability assessment. We tick box that yes, we know everything is secure. It doesn't happen. You
Yep.
don't get that level of confidence by doing once in a while. It has to be a continuous process. It has to be in their DNA. It has to be within their culture. That anything they do, their team of cybersecurity or information security office has been involved at every stage or every life cycle. Could be SDLC, could be a software development life cycle, or could be making any business decisions.
Right.
A continuous improvement, continuous testing. At the red team, blue team exercise, every product, every services, what they do, it's been continuously assessed, not being involved at the last moment. Otherwise, they will miss the game.
Nehru once said that, facts are facts and they don't change on the account of your likes. Abbas, can you talk to us a little bit about your position on cybersecurity? Has that got you a lot of friends, or has it made people say, I'm not too sure what that guy is talking about, and he's always giving us work? How has it made you being received in your community?
Okay. So I used to be a consultant before I became a CISO. So I spent some time with KPMG and EY as a IT advisor during those days. Cyber was not the word they used to use. I was an advisor or a consultant. And when I used to go for consulting assignment, or during the IT audit, they used to ask me question: do you have any practical experience? Have you been on the other side of the fence? The way you are giving me advice or giving me an audit issue
Right.
during IT audit, have you been? Are you practical enough? And really, it struck me. I think I have been enough as a consultant. Let me go and see what the world is on the other side of the fence. So I took my first job as a head of information security or head of security with electronic government in Bahrain. And my challenge was to now whatever I used to advise, I need to clearly implement and demonstrate that yes, I'm good in that.
Yeah.
And that had been a journey since that time till my last job as a CISO, which 2 years back I stopped being a CISO on the other side of the fence. I had to prove in each and every job that whatever I used to advise is been practically implemented at a really improved organization postures in cybersecurity, and they have gone to the next level of maturity from where they were. And I built up my reputation as somebody who can fix the issue, somebody who can improve the posture of overall cybersecurity within organizations, and my accolades, what you see at the back, has been given to me
Yep.
not just because I was advising. I have actually done something and improved on certain areas, and that's how I ended up now with Microsoft as a advisor. That yes, been through the journey. Now let's help wider community and on how they can improve overall, not only from one single company, but I work with number of CISOs in entire Asia.
One of the stereotypes, I don't know good or bad, of the South Asian, specifically the Indian community, is that we eat numbers for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And often we measure success by what we can quantitatively define. How do you quantitatively define success for a CISO?
Quantitatively defined is first of all, they need to understand why they have been hired for that particular CISO position, right? So CISOs comes from various backgrounds. Some are technical CISO, they are hired because they want to run the operation. Some are more of a strategic CISO
Yep.
because they need somebody who can translate those what's going on in the IT environment to the business. Some are more of a public facing CISO, an evangelist CISO, you can say, who are not only doing what they do, not only doing everything what is required within the company, but also being a public face of the company as well. So, what KRIs or what KPI has been given to them when they hired? Are they just hired to run the show, keeps the light on, or the company is genuinely interested in improving the overall posture to gain confidence among the customer, to improve information security or the data security within the company? And that's how, when the CISO is joining an environment based on why, he has to ask the why he's there. He needs to create his own KPIs and performance indicator, that what and how he is improving. And there are a number of mechanisms, right? Either if the CISO is hired from the, like I give you one more example. So one of the organization where I was hired for a specific task. They had 36 open issues, audit issues, and they were struggling to close it. So they were giving me a task. My job is to make sure we quickly remediate all those 36 audit issue and improve our compliance requirement, because otherwise we'll get into a problem. So that was my KPI, and I had to demonstrate by improving, by implementing the policy, hiring the right skill set, giving the proper training, having and maturing the current existing control, or add any additional control to improve the overall security posture.
Yep.
It all depends upon organization and the reason or the objective why the CISO has been hired, and that's how I would quantify
Yep.
based on that. Does that make
Often,
sense?
yeah, absolutely. And often we hear a lot of companies and CEOs who'll turn around and say, "Hey, you know what? Hiring the CISO is very expensive." And in return, our responses have always been, "We're not doing anything. Is actually you can't put a value on that, and
Actually,
it's
more expensive.
it's actually more expensive." How do you, as a CISO in multiple environments and having gone through numerous types of businesses, how do you align the role of a CISO with ROI, return on investment?
Yeah. So going back to the same example of why, when I go for such interviews, I always ask them, why are you hiring CISO? Did you hire a CISO before? They would say, oh yeah, we had it, but we had a gap and we didn't have anyone, and now we want to again hire somebody. Or I get an answer, no, we never had. We had a breach, and now we want somebody who can help us improve it. So, and that's when the CISO gets into the organization for demonstrate what value he's going to bring it. And I've often been there, and I've been to that similar journey. That after 2 or 3 years, when things are better and things are improved, their objective is changed. They don't want to further invest in cybersecurity or the team which I have built it. And they say we are happy with what's going on. There is no further things are required, and the CISO moves on. Typical life journey of a CISO is 2 years, and you can check out my LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
Why I'm saying 2 years. So you are there for a task. You're there for a hire for a particular objective to bring that improvement or change the culture. And once things are there, if you get further support, you're going to be there. Otherwise, if you are aggressive CISO like me who wants to continuously demonstrate what they're doing it, and you cannot sit quiet in one environment for a longer period of time, you will move around, right? And that's what something which I always say, that if you don't get a support, move out. There is a huge demand in the market.
Yeah.
Don't just sit there or wait until they make you from chief information security to chief information scapegoat officer. Our objective should become like a chief influential security officer, not a chief scapegoat officer.
Very interesting. And if I'm reading between the lines carefully here, then there was a moment that I guess when you realized that you were not comfortable with being comfortable and decided to make the move from India to Australia. Why did that happen?
Uh, I didn't move from India to Australia. I moved from Middle East to Australia.
Okay.
I worked in India, then I was there in Middle East for 14 years, and multiple reasons to move to a better country. I would say you are treated as an expatriate in those Middle Eastern country, and the further growth was you don't see much of a opportunity. I would say
Right.
it's so hard to get into companies like Microsoft or AWS because they don't have that huge investment in those smaller country.
Yeah.
Usually, it is divided into a bigger country or a bigger zone. and quality of life as well. So, wanted to work in a fast-paced environment, much modern environment where the organizations are much mature in their thinking process of how and what they need to do it. And it was an obvious choice as a family that okay, let's settle down in a country like Canada or Australia. And I don't like too much of snow, so I decided to come to Australia.
Fair enough. You know, often we say this in many of our circles that many people can write, but few can read. And what I mean by that is that in the security world or any professional technology based environment, you find a lot of people who can write a lot and tell you about almost anything under the sun, but they don't have the ability to actually carefully read to understand. They're constantly in a position where they're defensive and they're responding, but they're not taking in what they're hearing. How difficult has it been for you, or do you at all call out, for lack of a better word, the nonsense that you sometimes see in security? A good example of this is often you'll see a lot of folks saying, we see a problem in this, and we see that a lot of folks are accessing this application directly, and they're trying to access it from home. We need to set up a VPN, we need to set up a firewall, let's call this vendor and that vendor. But it's not as simple as that. There's no cookie cutter solutions here. How do you call out the nonsense as a CISO?
Yeah. You said some very good words. So, are you listening or are you hearing?
Yeah.
You know, there's a huge difference.
Yeah.
Although we can say that yeah, listening and hearing is the same, but it's a huge difference. Listening means you are trying to understand what the other person is saying, and then come back with your follow up action.
Yep.
And in world of a CISO environment, when you need to do something quickly, it's always a risk management decision. I would say CISO has to be always a risk conscious or the risk bias, right? You may say, okay, I need to enable my 10,000 users working from home in 1 month. Let's start doing, as the example you said, VPN. It's not going to happen overnight. It has to be really translated into okay, if I allow my 10,000 people to work from home, what are the risks I'm trying to reduce in terms of current existing ecosystem, what I have, current controls in place, will they work? If not, what additional thing I can do it until I get a funding or a budget or from my company. So it has to be documented in a way, or it has to be translated in a way with the business or your stakeholders saying that, okay, we are good to go for 5,000 because that's what our current capacity is. For the remaining 5,000, we'll give a limited access to them. They may not have the full access to our environment. They will be only accessing a certain portion of application on need to know, need to do basis. And we'll manage that particular risk for a certain number of months or a week. And then you tell us what we need to do next. Otherwise, we will have a limited number of resources working from home. We don't have a 100% capacity.
Yeah.
So it has to be discussed in a way which business can digest and understand. Then the risk management folks or the business people will really realize that the CISO is really listening and not just taking a hasty decision that yes, you cannot, we'll stop it.
Yeah.
CISO or a security responsibility is to enable the business, not stop doing the business.
Yeah.
Because they are the one who is paying your salary, right?
Right.
You are not the business. You don't bring business from them, but you're enabling them to do a better business in a more secure fashion.
Yeah. In a session that I held with another advisor, Michael Castro from Risk Aware, I underscored this aspect, as well as with Sarah Qureshi, who's also a virtual CISO here in Canada. I underscored this statement which says, it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 seconds of a cyber incident to ruin it. I want to go through, we have a couple of more minutes, and I just want to take your time to sort of look at your perspective on how do you go about building cybersecurity teams, especially from a SOC perspective. What are the skill sets that you look for? And what is it that you feel are those engines that can drive the right security posture within a team?
Yeah, I have a famous saying, it's your attitude and not the aptitude which will determine your altitude. So when I do an
Well said.
interview of folks who are trying to join my team, either in the SOC or in the security team, I always look at the right attitude. Do you have enough hunger in your belly, or do you have enough fire in your belly to prove yourself that yes, you are fit for this role? Technology I can teach. I have been a mentor for a number of years. I can teach you technology, but do you have the right attitude to learn from me?
Yep.
That's what I need, and we need to have a diverse set of people within your security analyst team, right? Because you don't know that all hackers come from the same background.
Yep.
So why do you want all defender to be computer engineers?
Yep.
You need the different thought process. Now that our product are are embedded with those machine learning and AI algorithm. You can't have a computer engineer tuning your ML, right? You need a set of diverse background, those who are from IT audit background, those who are from psychology background, those who are from STEM requirement,
Yep.
science background.
Yep.
You need all set of variety of team in your organization, so they can also think differently. That's what you need, diversity. Diversity not only in your tool set. We have diversity in the tool set. We have all different kind of things, but also we need diversity among your team. So we can argue and come to a healthy conclusion rather than everyone thinks in the same way.
Yeah.
If you can't have everyone fighting with the same type of gun.
Yeah.
You need different set of guns as well. So that's the mentality or that's the philosophy I follow. That having a right attitude in a person who is willing to learn, doesn't matter from what background or a degree they have it. Technology can be taught, which is the most easier part these days. Gone
Yep.
out 15, 20 years back, where we need to have a computer science degree to step into IT. And
Yep.
I proved that particular myth by
Yep.
doing a degree in commerce and auditing, and now I'm into IT security. So
Absolutely.
that's what my take is on that.
I think everybody would have laughed at you then because you're different. You can laugh at them now because they're all the same. Abbas,
Yeah,
we've
the same.
Abbas, we've got another
Absolutely.
30 seconds, and I do want to close with our audience to get them a little more of a peek into who you are. Could you recommend a book, a movie, or a piece of art that folks should take in to understand how you've come to realize what cybersecurity is?
Oh, that's a difficult question. Uh, in terms of movie, I got dragged from a movie called Hacker,
Yeah,
Angelina Jolie, those back in those days, and some of the other favorite movies are Matrix,
yeah.
where I actually saw the rival hacking happening at that point of view. In terms of book, I do have a book in front of me called Countdown to a Zero Day by Kip by Kim Zetters, which is
Okay.
the book I'm reading right now, and that's a story about how Zero Day was exploited
Yep.
and in multiple scenarios and all. So yeah, that's a couple of things about me.
And Mr. Abbas, with everything that you're doing, all right, being not just situated within Microsoft Australia, being on a variety of boards, being mentors to so many individuals and organizations, when our board reached out to you, or rather, many of our advisory champions reached out to you, specifically through Mehdi Raza, you jumped on the opportunity right away. What drove you to being a part of the Cyber Exchange community?
You will need another 30 minutes with me to answer that one question,
All right.
because there are various stories or various life experience I had gone through. When I wanted to step into IT, I didn't have any mentor with me.
Right.
I had to look around, read magazines, read news, and find how how I stepped into this particular industry. It was a self-made, I would say. But I don't want everyone else or anyone who is thinking of how to get into this line to be left alone.
Yep.
That's why I said this is the right platform to on my mission to help others to find the right career direction, because cybersecurity is not just one field. There are 20 things you can do in cybersecurity, right?
Yep.
So based on your personality, based on your attitude, based on what your knowledge you have, you can do multiple things. Or pick up a line where you can be more comfortable with, right? Like
Yep.
introvert and extrovert and all. So when I do mentorship, I always go into that. What is your personality? What do you like? It's not everybody wants to be a pen tester, because when I
Yeah.
go and teach as a professor, when I ask them what do you want to be after this degree, and 90% will say I want to be pen tester, and at the end of my course, then I ask them, I would only see 10% being a pen tester,
Right.
and those 10% are the real pen testers who are going to be, right?
Yep.
Not because everyone thinks doing pen testing and hacking is a cool stuff.
Yep.
So that was the story that I want to be the guiding mentor for them, so they can take a right decision and to give back the society and create the diverse set of professionals. We don't want only pen testers in cybersecurity.
Yeah.
We want all set of people. We want good analyst. We want good content writer. We want good evangelist as well, who can go and speak on the platform. Being a ex Toastmasters. We
Yeah.
need all kind of skill set, just not just a pen tester. And that's what my whole objective of joining this platform, that I can be that voice and spread the message out there.
Abbas, the grip of the 30 minutes is letting go, and I do have to bring this to an end. But before we conclude, I do have the task of bringing this whole ocean of knowledge into a single glass. So, for our audience, I'm going to do my best to summarize this before I thank Abbas. And here's what I've learned from this discussion today, and that is really we are the product of our thoughts. What we think, we become. If you can think it, just as he did when his file server was breached, he became that person who could proactively protect it. You know, the exchanges that we've just had with a very senior individual in the space of cybersecurity, for someone junior like myself, tells you that again, what I've said repeatedly in previous sessions, and that is the notion of the more you learn, the more you know there's more for you to learn. You know, Nehru once said, rather it was Gandhi actually who had said this, is that the true way to find yourself is to get lost in the service of others. And I think if you can look at how Abbas has lent himself to the service of others, you'd realize how he's found his calling. You know, in keeping in line with everything that we do at the Cyber Exchange, it's giving back that drives a lot of us. It's allowing for a platform where, yes, our sponsors, our vendors, our community partners can come in and talk to us about new innovations, can help us be proactively more protected, but it's also about creating opportunity. In the world that we live in today, especially in light of the pandemic, or in light of the recent appalling incidents in Lebanon, we often find ourselves appalled and mourning how people die, yet we don't pay attention to how they live. I think today Abbas has been that voice of reason. Pay attention to how people around you are living, pay attention to how you are living, and make sure that you are playing your part. Abbas, thank you for not just making this a technical conversation about cybersecurity, but making it one that we can think over and we can share, well, just thinking about what it means to be human in an IT-driven world. Once again, I thank you for your time all the way in Melbourne. I will say this, I hope that you're staying safe and healthy, and I hope that the 2 degrees winter is the kind of winter we get to experience here in Canada, because that's typically our summers here at 2 degrees. Abbas, thank you so much for your time. I look forward to seeing you on cyberexchange.ca, and I also look forward to further engagements and communications with you. On behalf of all of our advisors, the community here in Canada, I thank you, stay safe, and stay healthy.
Thank you. My pleasure.